Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Perez Art Museum, Miami. My name is Marie Vickles, and I'm the Director of Education. Tonight, we are presenting the online version of our Local Views at PAMM program featuring filmmaker Monica Sorelle. This live virtual Local Views program is presented with the generous support of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Local Views features Miami-based artists sharing their practice and discussing works of art on view at the museum that connect in various ways to their own work. This program aims to provide a firsthand interaction with local artists centered on their creative process. This casual 30-minute conversation now takes place every Thursday online at 6 p.m. via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. As we continue slogging through these weeks of a now easing quarantine, we have seen many inspiring and engaging programs making their way to virtual spaces, allowing us to connect to culture that is both local and international. And most importantly, these moments provide us with a way to connect with one another. So again, to all of you out there joining us right now, we feel the love. Thank you for being with us. Before I introduce Monica, I would like to acknowledge and thank the incredible team of people that work so very hard to make these programs come together online. There's a whole team at the museum now in our homes working so very hard to produce these productions. A big thank you to Anita Bram, Associate Director of Adult Programs and Audience Engagement, and of course our world-class AV team, Denise Faxis and Andrew Bird. This program could not happen without your crucial contributions, so thank you all. All right, let's get started. Local Views. Monica Sorelle is a Haitian-American filmmaker, born, raised, and based right here in Miami, Florida. She has produced and worked as department head on projects for Film Independent, A24, HBO, and PBS. Her work explores alienation and displacement, and seeks to document and preserve cultural traditions within Miami and the Caribbean, with a focus on the African and Latin diasporas that reside here. Monica is also a member of Third Horizon, whoop, whoop, shout out, a creative collective dedicated to developing, producing, exhibiting, and distributing work which gives voice to stories of the Caribbean, its diaspora, and other marginalized and underrepresented spaces in the global South. She is currently the Associate Director of Programs and Industry for their flagship initiative, Third Horizon Film Festival. Monica was an inaugural fellow of the New Orleans Film Society's Southern Producers Lab in 2018. Her latest project as producer, T, directed by Keisha Ray Witherspoon, another shout out there, was selected for the Sundance Film Festival and New Directors, New Films screenings. Also won the Golden Bear for Best Short Film at the Berlinale and won additional awards at the Miami Film Festival, New Orleans Film Festival, and the Star Film Festival. Currently, Monica is a cinematic arts resident at Ulight Arts, where she is writing and developing her feature film directorial debut, whew, that's a little mouthful for me, Mountains. Looking forward to that project, Monica. So as you watch along this evening on Facebook or YouTube Live, please post some questions for Monica. We will try to answer as many as possible during the Q&A portion of this evening's presentation. And remember, if you value this and other programs presented by the museum, please consider supporting us by going to pam.org/donate. So with all of that said, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Monica.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie Vickles. Thank you to PAMM for inviting me. It's an honor. And to the team, to Oscar Riebling, Anita Bram, Denise, Andrew, and thank you to all of you at home for joining in. As Marie said, I am Monica Sorelle, and I've worn a few different hats as far as photography, writing, events, and publishing, but I feel most comfortable with the title as a filmmaker. So with that said, I feel as though I primarily view art through a cinematic lens. meaning I usually take in the work and create a narrative out of it. And so in keeping with that, for this Local Views tour, I have chosen 3 works in the polyphonic exhibition, which celebrates the African-American work in PAMM's collection that was acquired through the Fund for African-American Art. Though I had to prepare for this during quarantine, I had the good fortune of already seeing these works in person at PAMM throughout the last few years, and so I'm really excited to gush over them and talk about them in relation to what I've been working on and thinking about lately. So without further ado, we'll get into the first work. I'm going to talk about Kevin Beasley's Untitled Parade first. And essentially what we're seeing here is Beasley has created these kind of hollow forms using clothing and resin. And I chose this work because besides being both beautiful and haunting, I like that it gives us like some work to do and invites us to do like some imagining here. It's like sort of interactive because he's created, it's almost as if he's like drawn these lines that, you know, we're supposed to like color in, and we're left to fill this void of who these forms, who these people are, and also maybe figure out why they aren't here. And that is an idea that, you know, I followed in a series that I created called Ghosts of Little Haiti. Recently, I was fortunate enough to have some of these photos exhibited at Light Arts last October through Basel. And it's essentially just a collection of photos that I've taken over the years in response to the gentrification in Little Haiti. So, for example, the photo on the top left is something that I took while I was on a tour of Weird Miami, a BFI tour of Serge Toussaint's murals, and we were having conversations about the impact of his murals and in the neighborhood and why they were disappearing and decaying. And then, you know, other photos were taken because in preparation of the feature film that I'm writing as an Light Arts resident, I'm just spending a lot of time in the neighborhood, walking about, taking photos of spaces and colors and homes and people. So I took all these photos and I put them together, and I was interested in framing Little Haiti as a ghost town, essentially. I feel as though, like Beasley, I'm interested in having the viewer look at these spaces and these photos and think about what's missing and what cultural markers remain and who may end up disappearing and what did they create, or how they built community, or how they shared space with one another, and what will be left if they're pushed out. And you know, these are all questions that I'm definitely interested in continuing to explore, and I hope to expand the series later this year. I'm going to talk also about Art Is by Lorraine O'Grady. This is essentially a series of 40 photos. I've learned that the backstory to this collection or this performance is basically inspired by a remark that one of O'Grady's acquaintances made, essentially claiming that avant-garde art didn't have anything to do with Black people, to which I imagine O'Grady responded, okay, bet, and then like Art Is was born. And essentially what we're looking at here is a documentation of a performance O'Grady conceptualized, where her and her collaborators went around the African-American parade in Harlem in 1983, and they held these gold picture frames up to the crowd and the performers and themselves, and made art out of the everyday people. And I think that I don't know, besides just being really pleasant and wholesome, this work speaks to the idea of the subject as a collaborator. I know that like when they were going around and the crowd started realizing what was going on, they would like shout to the collaborators, like, I want to be art, I want to be art. And they would like hold the frame up to themselves to be captured. So I think it just speaks to like the community's involvement in art as a subject, but also as collaborators, as the art themselves, and you know, giving a community agency into deciding their own images and deciding who and what to frame instead of having that be decided for them. And I think having ownership in our image, all people, but, you know, I mean, let's talk about specifically Black people here. Having ownership of that is everything, because images historically and currently have been used to reinforce some really disgusting propaganda. I mean, to pivot to film, you know, there's this talk that the filmmaker Haile Grima did at Black Star Film Festival, where he essentially says that film is a tool of white supremacy, like inherently, and that he uses it against itself, essentially, and that anybody who doesn't is kind of going along with it and reinforcing those ideas. And, you know, I think you can agree with me that in a lot of films we see ideas, the ideas that we see are those that we are inferior, or that we need saving, or, you know, just a ton of other harmful rhetoric. And here's some more from the series. I've been thinking about all of this today a lot because, you know, I'm looking at the unrest in Minnesota, and there's this video of this young man, I don't know his name yet, but he's speaking so passionately and beautifully about his and everyone's anger in this unrest, and giving everyone such dignity. And he's doing it on a platform which is like the nightly news, you know, that is something that denigrates us, frankly, and he kind of just flipped that on his head. So I'm just very interested in that, the autonomy of image, essentially. These are some photos I took a while ago while I was working at a nonprofit in Little Haiti called PAMM. This is at the May Day parade in, I think it was 2015. And, you know, I definitely don't think I was as intentional as O'Grady in creating collaborations, but I definitely wanted to, you know, create images that empower the community. And, you know, the young man holding the flag there on the left, is, you know, I consider that a collaboration. That's, you know, that was a photo that he asked me to take of him, and that I feel like he had ownership in. And, you know, additionally, I consider the men in these videos like Lede Andre of Trois Fois Trois, Santa Barbara Botanica, and Davidson, who makes awesome barbecue. You know, I think in these images that these are collaborators as well. You know, they're both aware of and comfortable with the camera, and gave me full permission to document them and their footprint within the community. And a little bit about these videos. These are some short videos I made as like promos for Third Horizon Film Festival. And you know, this past February moved from O Cinema in Wynwood, that's been demolished, to Little Haiti Cultural Center. And I ran around with our media manager, Davon, like literally the day before the festival to get these done. But I thought it was really important to do them because I felt that as though as outsiders coming in, we had to make sure we honored the people of Little Haiti that are there day after day, being of service to the community and most at risk of having certain things taken away from them. I'm gonna shout out my friend Michelle Lisa Polisson, because she's taken to calling me an emotional anthropologist. And I think that's because like I have this like innate need to like constantly like remember everything and mark time and document and archive. And going back, I think that kind of speaks to O'Grady's work because you know, she's exploring the idea of Black people in art as avant-garde and documenting that community at that time, at that event. And I feel like there's a lot of parallels because, I mean, look at Harlem now. The last piece I'm gonna talk about doesn't look like much, but it's very impactful. This is the Mundane Afrofuturist Manifesto by Martine Sims. I'm a huge fan of Martine Sims. I feel like in another dimension, I am Martine Sims. She's someone that I look up to a lot because she works in the mediums that I'm really interested in, video and publishing and performance, and she does it centering digital technologies. And I learned of her because of this, because it was at the PAMM. I turned a corner and I saw this huge text on the wall and I read it and reread it again, and I was so taken by it. So very thankful for PAMM for letting me be aware of Martine and her work. The manifesto essentially looks at Afrofuturism, which we know it's been around for decades, but I think as of late, it's been like a constant topic of conversation. And I think Afrofuturism is so important because as Black people, you know, having our history stolen from us has left us vulnerable. And now through Afrofuturism, we're being encouraged to instead create our own histories and imagine new realities. And so, because you can't read it, I'm going to read just the beginning of this manifesto so you can get a little taste. Okay, it begins. The undersigned, being alternately pissed off and bored, need a means of speculation and asserting a different set of values with which to reimagine the future. In looking for a new framework for Black diasporic artistic production, we are temporarily united in the following actions. The mundane Afrofuturists recognize that we did not originate in the cosmos. The connection between Middle Passage and space travel is tenuous at best. Out of 534 space travelers, 14 have been Black. An all-Black crew is unlikely. Magic interstellar travel and/or the wondrous communication grid can lead to an illusion of outer space and cyberspace as egalitarian. This dream of utopia can encourage us to forget that outer space will not save us from injustice, and that cyberspace was prefigured upon a master-slave relationship. While we are often othered, we are not aliens. Though our ancestors were mutilated, we are not mutants. Post-Black is a misnomer. Post-colonialism is too. The most likely future is one which we only have ourselves and this planet. She goes on after that to like establish rules of the manifesto and make fun of Afrofuturist tropes like Janelle Monáe and shiny suits and platform boots and stuff. And so it's like humorous and it's biting, but essentially I think what it's doing is like calling for our imaginations to be a little more reined in, I guess, and more grounded in reality, you know, bringing it back to earth, so to speak, and talking about what's actually possible for progress. And I find it really inspiring and useful to both artists and community organizers and all of you. You know, again, like, look at the unrest that's happening now. You know, I think this encourages you to imagine what futures that we can create that isn't being dictated to us, but that we have full control of. So this is, you know, without sound, this is a trailer from my last short film that I produced called Tea. And Afrofuturism and Afro-Surrealism was very obviously explored in this film. But I think one of the things that made Tea so successful was it kind of did exactly what Martine said, which is, you know, it created a Black future in Miami where we're still dealing with the same issues that we are today and have been dealing with. But we've taken the grief of it and made it completely our own. So, you know, essentially our characters in this film have removed power from the ones that are creating this grief and finding beauty and celebration within it. And, you know, to close out, I think that in a lot of my work, I like to document like what's real and what's happening right now in real time, what's right in front of us. And I think in the future, in my own work or in whatever it is I do, through this mundane Afrofuturist manifesto, like I'm very much interested in continuing to explore what is and what's tangible, but also exploring what could be. And so with that said, I'm gonna kick it back off to Anita. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you. That was amazing. Much better than any TED Talk I've seen. So while I'm asking these questions, I just want to, prompt everyone to send your questions on Facebook or YouTube, and we will get them to Monica. But our first question is from YouTube. Do you think in film, in the process of making work, is your final envisioned work usually a film or cinematic work?
Do you think in film? In the process of making, there's this saying that I've been hearing since film school, which is like, you make 3 films: the one you write, the one you film, when you shoot, and the one that you edit. And so I think film in a way is kind of very much alive in that it takes new forms and it becomes completely different from what it is that you intended to do. It becomes richer, hopefully, and not less so. I think you do think in film, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
All right, I think you got it. Next question is from Kevin Arrow. Hey, Kevin. What is your dream collaboration and project?
My dream collaboration and project. I've always wanted to adapt an Edwidge Dantika story and shoot it in Haiti. So I think that's like maybe one of my biggest dream collaborations. And I think in the meantime, maybe like a smaller collaboration. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I just reached out to like a local artist that I'm hoping to collaborate with soon, named Edney Jean-Joseph. Yes. who's really incredible. And we'll see what happens with that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we have a comment from YouTube from Francis Oliver. He said that really resonates, that said that really resonates with me. Innate need to mark time, document, etc. And then Marie followed it up with a question to ask, how much do you think about the element of archiving and how your work will be seen by future generations?
Yeah, I think that the idea of archiving is so that others can see what was. And, you know, I think in this case, if what they're seeing is kind of like a lost city, so to speak, kind of wondering how those images, these archives can empower them to maybe avoid certain decisions being made for them, or, you know, like kind of embolden people to take ownership and power and fight against certain structures.
Thanks. Thank you. Let's see. Nathaniel Sandler asked, what is your favorite 2001 action film starring John Travolta and Halle Berry? And I guess why?
Hi, Nathaniel. I think there's only one answer, and it's Swordfish. Swordfish. Nathaniel and I and a few of our friends have this inside joke, this other collective, a secret society that has everything to do with swordfish. So I think that's just a link to that. So more on that, hopefully. That's another dream collaboration. We're gonna like get some swordfish studies content out to you guys.
Let's see, I have one last question from Marie. Alice Walker once said, if art doesn't make us better, what on earth is it for? How do you hope art will make us as a humanity better?
Yeah. Yesterday I posted that video with Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture quote where essentially he was saying, you know, bringing it back to the unrest that, you know, I think we think like nonviolence can be good because, you know, opponents, the powers that be can like see our suffering and feel bad and things will change. But, you know, the United States doesn't have a conscience, so that's impossible. So I think with art, it kind of relies on the individual to be that conscience and see these works and build community from it and make changes, not wait for change, but make it themselves.
Thank you. I guess I have a question. If you could just expand a little bit more on what it was like, the process was like working on Tea and then going to the Berlinale. Do you have any additional bits you could share?
Yeah, Tea was a very long process. I think pre-production took like 7 months. I think post-production took like over a year. It was a very long process because it's very sensitive work, I think, and I think it took a lot out of us to create it. And we didn't know what would come of it. It's really, if anyone's seen it, it's very like weird and you know, doesn't follow traditional narrative structures. And so we were shocked at the response. And going to the Berlinale was incredible. It was great to see a mostly white European audience still have these stories resonate with them in such a way that, you know, we were able to fly back home with the Golden Bear. So yeah, Tea is a very special and honest work. I think that's the best thing about tea. It's just very honest.
Well, congratulations again on that, and to you and Keisha and the whole team. I guess another segue from that, in addition to tea, if you had to give everyone a list of, in addition to tea and swordfish, I take it, could you provide a list of 3 films that you think everybody has to watch in their lifetime?
Oof. Okay.
Sorry, that's a tough one.
Off top, I say, though I've come to find out it's problematic, but off top, Paris is Burning, which is my favorite documentary. Atlantics. And what's another film that I think is important for everyone to watch? The Assassination of Fred Hampton.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Let's see. I have a question from Naja Moon on Facebook. Hey, Naja. Do you see your work as a producer as part of your own visual arts practice? Can you talk a bit more about that? And she said, I missed the beginning if you already talked about this.
I didn't, I don't think. So within film, there's a lot of different kinds of producers, and I consider myself a creative producer. So it's, it's a strange line, but I would say that, I do consider it a part of my practice, only because while maybe I'm not making the initial creative decisions, I'm very picky about the projects that I work on. Like, I don't just work on films to pay rent. It's like truly a collaborative process for me. And, I think that as a creative producer, you get to help steer the ship. And you get to, make sure the director and writer is being as clear as possible, and that the themes are fleshed out, and the work is in its best possible shape. So kind of, I think, is the answer to that.
Okay, gotcha. I'm seeing lots of comments, I think, on our film questions saying Paddington 2 and Hurricane Heist.
I forgot about Paddington 2. Everyone has to watch Paddington 2. I don't know anything about Hurricane Heist, but Paddington 2.
Okay, noted. And then we just have one last question from Alan Mueller on Facebook. He says, Monica, as a filmmaker, do you revisit anything that you choose to leave out on the cutting room floor?
Only recently. No, not for a long time. I think only recently I'm looking back at past works or little things that I've decided not to share or that didn't make the cut, and find something new in that. But usually I just kind of like wash my hands of it for the most part. So
I take it back. There's one more question that actually just came in on YouTube Live. Giselle C. asked, has the impact of the lockdown in Little Haiti had an effect on your writing process? People in the area are disproportionately affected by rent issues, healthcare worker issues, etc. How does this translate for you? And she also said, hi.
Hi. Yes, in a way. I mean, to be honest, like, the lockdown has made it very hard to be productive creatively. But one thing, I finished my script, or at least a draft of it, a few weeks before quarantine. And then, as we were in quarantine, I realized, I was like, is this still relevant? Like, is the issues that I'm talking about, is this film still relevant? And so I'm trying to figure out, I don't know what's what we're going to go back to once this is over, whenever this is over. But yeah, I definitely think that there is no going back really, and that I'm going to have to kind of one way or another fold all of this into future drafts before we get a shot.
Definitely. Okay, I promise I'm going to cut it after this, but Mavoke Dotson asked on YouTube, how will what's going on today impact future projects you do? And also said, sac passe.
Not boule. So wait, how will what's going on now?
In general, impact future projects that you do.
I don't know, because I just really can't wrap my head around what the hell is going on right now. Like, everything is so up in the air. But I will say that, you know, even prior to this, the themes that I've said that I like to explore the most are alienation and displacement. And I think we're seeing that happen now. So I think that's only going to be explored further and more thoroughly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us and sharing this time and all of your work. It was an amazing experience. And I just also wanted to give one last shout out and thank you to the amazing Alan Mueller, who is on our membership team, leading the membership department, and to all of our any members we have joining us this evening. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Monica. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye.